guys, welcome. We are at the devcom where developers from all about the world showcase their new games or talk in a keynote about a specific topic. And one of those speakers is Didier Arpin, which is joining me today. But before we talk about your keynote, I want you to introduce yourself.
Yes, so Didier Arpin, I'm design director for both studios at Gearbox in Quebec and Montreal. I helped Gearbox start those studios, and I have a very particular career mixed with comic books, cartoons, movies, and now video games for like many years. So I've been in this entertainment industry for more than 25 years now.
That's a lot of experience. We come to that later. You said currently you are working as a design director. What does a design director specifically do?
So design director, I guess it's a title it's a role that's going to change from studio to studio, and even my role changed in the almost 8 years I was with Gearbox. But I will say it's, in my case, it's more of a studio role. So I'm there to support the team, I'm there to build the team, I'm there to train the team, and it's more about the reason I wanted to start a studio with my friends in Quebec was because I wanted a different kind of space where we could like really trust people, and it's a different way of doing things. And so that's why I say like my role might change compared to other people that does the same role in the industry. But yeah, to summarize it, it's more about being there for the team and making sure that everybody is going to be able to make the game that they want to be.
When did you choose to work as a design director, and how did you become it?
Yeah, that's a bit a complicated story. It's a long story, but like I joke sometimes that I don't have the best job in the world, but at least I work for the best studio in the world, because I did have the ambition of becoming a creative director before starting a studio, but I couldn't see where I would have been able to realize myself professionally. AAA development is very big. There's a lot of money involved, and for me, and it's something maybe I saw a bit more in movies and cartoons. You know, when you know who the director is, you know who the art director is, you know who the producer are, but in video games, it's so much more chaotic, and you have so much more people involved. It's really hard to actually have an opportunity to make your vision come true, even if you have the creative role director. And it was becoming a bit frustrating for me, so I kind of changed my career, and I decided I had an opportunity to start something, but I had to step in the role of design director. Even if it's something that I don't have experience with, I was always very involved in that side in games, and I was able to, at least, well, one thing I did since I started is the first thing I wanted to do when we started to do is to put back values on all the designers' roles, because a lot of designers didn't have a lot of reflection on what they were doing. A lot of people in the video game industry just go by their personal taste, and for me, that's not the way I want to work as a professional. Like for me, AAA development is exactly it's like in music. When you want to play an orchestra, for me, that's the AAA industry. So you have to be really good at one instrument, and you have to follow everybody else on the same beat. And to be part of an orchestra like that, people need to trust you. And it's a bit more complicated because there's so many people. But if you want to do anything and you want to work the way you want, well, you start your garage band and you become an indie band, and it's very different. And you can still make a lot of money even if you're indie. But like I said, for me, expectation in the AAA industry, I wasn't able to really find them. I wasn't able to realize myself. So I decided that it was more important to create a studio where that trust will exist, and we will be able to trust the people that work for the studio and on their project. So I had to kind of remove myself from all the creative aspect, and now I'm just helping people like achieving great games.
Speaking of great games, in your career you had many jobs. I did a little bit of research. Before you were design director, you worked as texture artist for Mainframe Entertainment and Bardell Entertainment, cinematics director for Electronic Arts, and lead animator by Beanox or at Beanox. What do all these jobs have in common, and what are the differences?
I guess the only thing they have in common, it's all entertainment. And I love entertainment. I love comic books, movies, anime, cartoons. And for me, like, it was never like about, for me, it's always about being an entertainer. And I think it motivates me to be able to do different things. I think I've never been that much very precise on doing one thing. And of course, you know, like careers in cartoons and movies are not as, easy as in games. What I mean by that is, like, I've lived in Vancouver for 2 years when I was working in movies. And the first time I worked with EA, and I always ended up getting like 3 months contract. So you get a 3-month contract, and then you need another contract. And sometimes you need to change the job. And in video games, we're lucky because we have like steady jobs with a lot of perks. But when I started my career, and even at some point I was freelancing, like for 2 years as an art director for cartoon series. So, like I said, at some point you go where the work is, and you kind of need to adapt. So I had to adapt a bunch of times in my career.
You said you are a veteran in the industry. You got 25 years of experience. Like you said, cartoon series, comic books, movies, and video games. What was your final call to choose to work as a design director in the gaming industry, or in the gaming industry in general, instead of, let's say, cartoon series?
Well, I have to admit at some point, the best thing about game development is you don't really have a client. I mean, the clients are the fans. And the fans are going to decide if your game is good or not. When I was working in cartoons, you always have to find a broadcaster because they were putting the money in. And if they didn't like the cartoon, they could change it. So it was a bit frustrating to always have people, not understanding the vision and not understanding the product you're trying to do. But in video games, we have that liberty because in the end, many projects are self-finance. And even if like Microsoft or Sony is going to finance your project, they're not going to tell you how to do it. So that's a big difference to have in video games. And of course, the stability, like I said, you get tired of always looking for 3 months contract, and having a bit more stability, video games was going to bring me that. So that's why, for me, like at some point it became obvious. And because I'm from Quebec, video game industry is really big in Quebec. The cartoon industry in Montreal kind of crashed at some point, and that's why I had to move in Vancouver and to kind of rebuild my career over there in cartoons. But at some point I was kind of living a bit the same frustration or instability. And then I had an opportunity to come back in Montreal to work at EA. And I was like, you know what? If I do that, I need to go full on, like 100% video games. And that's what happened. That was like in 2006 that I really decided to go full-time in game.
And I guess you never regretted it.
No, of course not.
I said you got very much interest in cartoon series, comic books, movies, and games. If you had to pick one favorite for all these 4 categories, what would they be?
All right, let's start with comic books. It's a very precise book called Grendel, Devils and Deaths. It's just a mini-series, apart from a really bigger universe, but that's the comic book that always got me, and really, I still read it today, and I just love everything that happens in there. If we go on cartoons, I guess if we talk a movie, I have to say Akira was a big life changer for me. Back in the 90s, you didn't really brag when you liked cartoons and you were like becoming a young adult. It was for kids, or even video games is something that you tell about. Or back in the days, it wasn't as common as it is today. And and it's weird to grow up liking that much cartoons and not seeing it being something you could do later on in your life because it's so much for kids. But when I saw Akira, it was such an adult version of what a cartoon could be. And it made me dream like I'd never dreamed before. Like, it was something that was like, I can't believe that movie exists. And like, I don't think it's the best movie ever made, but I think it's the movie that has the most impact on everything I did. And if we go to a live action movie, of course, Star Wars, I think, is it's the first movie I saw in theaters. And it was very funny. It was like a year or two before Return of the Jedi came out. So my mother, me and my older brother, she brought us to the theater for the first time. We've never been in theater. We were very young. I think I was like 4 years old. Maybe my older brother was like 5. And it was a double header. So we have Star Wars and Empire Strikes back to back, the same night. So of course that marked me for life. I mean, yeah, and I'm still like, yeah, Star Wars is up there for sure. And video games, my best video game of all time, it's I have to say Metal Gear Solid.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it's a game that has everything. I mean, there's so many mechanics, so many things hidden. It's just like I love the stories. I love all the characters. It's like I don't think I'm never gonna play something that's gonna beat that. Like the first Metal Gear Solid is really on a league of its own.
So how often did you play Metal Gear Solid 1? I don't think you got only one playthrough.
Yeah, but not that many. Of course, like I think just having the opportunity to play on a harder level. And it's changed the games when you play at a harder level. So, yeah, it was interesting to play it more than once. I think they're coming out with a remaster. I should be good to, redo a playthrough, but with the better graphics.
What games do you currently play?
I mostly play online games because it's easier for me. I can, play for 15 minutes, do something else, and come back and do another round. So, of course, right now, Street Fighter 6 just came out, so I'm going to play a lot of Street Fighter 6.
Good pick.
And other than that, it's Overwatch that I've been playing a lot. Like I said, it's just quick sessions. And it's the same formula for me. For me, every character, it's his own game. So before you can master every character, you have a lot of playtime.
Yeah, I know that feeling. Playing Tekken, playing Street Fighter, it's easy to learn, hard to master.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
If I think about that many training sessions I did, it consumes a little bit of time. But would you say you are nowadays more a multiplayer gamer or also a single player campaign?
I guess it's funny because I really like competition, but I'm not a competitive person. For me, it's more like I'm not trying that hard to be better at the game. I'm just gonna be better at some point because I play so much. But I don't go in gyms in Street Fighter and trying to figure out things, or I'm just maybe I watch
replays.
Maybe I'm gonna follow a guy on Twitch who plays the character I'm playing, and that's gonna be it. But I just like competing. But I'm not super competitive myself.
I think you wouldn't have the time to be that competitive.
Well, that's the thing. Well, I can tell you that during the pandemic, we were stuck at home, and I got my diamond rank in Street Fighter. So that was pretty fun. And then once you're there, you can play with the best in the world in your region. So I like that. But yeah. It's not gonna happen. I was playing it every launch, and now I'm never playing at launch. I'm out there somewhere.
I found out that you are a console and a PC gamer. Do you remember what your first console was you played on, and which game?
Which game? I mean, it took many years for me and my brother before we get a console. But of course, the Atari 2600 was the first console I had. And then we went full Sega, like Sega Master System, Genesis, Saturn. So the first game on the Atari, the thing is, it's when, you know, they were kind of giving them away. Nobody wanted Atari anymore. Like, and you could buy a game for like $1. So when we got it, I think we had like a couple of games with it, and nothing was really memorable. Like, I think, you know, when I guess seeing Pac-Man in arcades was most like the first thing I saw. And I play a lot in arcades because back in the days it was easier and more accessible and cheaper, like a quarter.
That's true, yeah. Do you have any idols when it comes to your job as a design director, or where do you find inspiration?
I don't know, like, I guess like most inspiration gonna come from people I know that I work with, or even like my grandparents, my father, my mother. Like, it's always been a big inspiration for me. I don't try to get too much inspired by people I don't know because I don't really know them. I can like what they did, but I think it ends there. I really like Kojima. I think he's doing something that maybe only him can do, and he built that for many years. He was doing games, I guess, in the 80s, and I don't really even believe in that way of making games. I don't want to work in a studio that works like him, but he can do it. He can pull it off. It's fantastic. And but besides that, it's really hard for me, like I said, to get into that and notice that I focus more on myself and the stuff I need to do, what the team needs to do.
Well, your job as a design director, like you said in the beginning, isn't like any other design directors. You have got a very specific way you are acting this role. So I think it's really hard to have any idols because you don't have really that much people which work as a design director and which can show you or taught you how to do it.
You're totally right. And I had to create like the workplace I wanted. And one thing I wanted to do when we started the studio is to, put value back on the design role, because all the places I worked for, designers were so. It was not the precise role. It was like, at some point, it's like anybody could design. I think the worst thing I heard from a studio head at some point is like, like the art, that's the responsibilities of the artists. The code, that's the responsibilities of programmers. But design, that's everybody's responsibilities. And for me, I don't believe that. It doesn't make any sense. I want to work with real good designers. And it's a real job. It's not easy. It's not anybody who can do design. It's true that ideas can come from anywhere. But I mean, when we're designing a game and we need mechanics, we need level, I want to work with good designers that actually know what they're doing. And they're not just following their gut feeling. So that was like a very important thing when we started the studio. And it's funny, like sometimes we even had to let go veterans that didn't have that kind of knowledge, even if they've been in the industry for a long time. I need people who can actually make games and not just have ideas and ask people to do it for themselves. So it's it was really, like I said, I had to inspire people, and that's the thing. I'm never gonna force people into doing something. I'm always trying to inspire them to become better developers. We're all developers. That's the truth. But we're not all designers, and it's not because you take a class that you're gonna be able to do it. For me, it's almost close to being a writer. I mean, anybody can write.
Sure.
But can you write something good? And that's
the point.
Yeah, and it's all, like I said, like becoming master of your craft. And designer is a craft that needs to be developed, and we need to be better at designing our games. So yeah, it's you have to start somewhere, and sometimes you start by yourself. You speak to people, you trying to influence people, and at some point you figure it out a bit. You know what? I think we can get better at this, and I think we're doing a great job right now in Quebec.
Yeah. Speaking about people and inspiring them, in a few hours you have a keynote where you are a speaker, and your keynote is called Communicating Like Chewbacca. For all our viewers who can't be at the Gamescom, could you tell us in short what you are talking about in this keynote?
Well, I guess communication for me, it's at the root of a lot of problems we have in video game development. And I got to a point I was tired of hearing the sentence, we have communication problems. It seems like an easy scapegoat. When you don't know what happened, you just blame it on communication. And it's funny because for me, like communication, like a communication problem, for me, it's more like you have an employee that never reads their emails. That's a communication problem. But when that happens, we never say there's communication problem. We say those person don't read their emails. So when we come with that problem, that we have communication problem, what we do, we add meetings, we plan, we print plannings on the walls, and it doesn't change anything. We never solve our communication problem. And what I go with that on my talk is that I think we have a misconception of what communication is. And the real problem we have when we say that is because in video games, we create a lot of data. We create new information, like every day, every hour, every minute, there's someone working on new data, and it's gonna impact your work. And it's impossible to track everything. So that new information is what we call communication problem. And we need to accept the fact that we're gonna have communication problem. Because
you can't avoid them.
And because we're always gonna create new information. You know, we'll never have a ISO 9000 certification. We're not an assembly line where everything has to be the same. Like in Quebec, we work on 3 DLCs for Borderlands 3. And even if they were done like a couple of weeks, a month apart, with the same technology, the same, you know, it's the same game, they're totally different. They didn't have the same amount of people, the same budget, the same time. They didn't pick the same team. We always have to reinvent ourselves. And because of that, it's super hard to, you know, like always find a good answer. And, you know, because we all taught in school what the good answer is. And that's how we've been rated. And that's how you can become a doctor. And that's awesome. But now we're in entertainment. And it's not a precise science. We don't know what a good game is. And we're probably never going to know before it reaches the shelves and it goes out to the public. So we have that reflex that everything should be set in stone. And how come you took that decision a month ago and never heard about it? Well, maybe you don't have the credibility to get that information before. Maybe somebody make a mistake, but it doesn't matter. It's going to happen because there's too much new information being created by the team every day. And it's impossible to track. Even if you need 10% of all that information, you're never going to be able to track all of that. So making games is very chaotic, but I prefer to control chaos or embrace it. It's gonna be chaotic, so don't be mad every time something's not gonna go the way you want it. You know, like it's gonna happen. We don't know what we're doing. We're always trying to figure it out. And sometimes like the team is super happy and they're sure it's gonna be a success, and then we do a user test and it's a catastrophe because we forgot about something, and then we see people playing and it's like we never thought people were gonna play the game like that. So back to the drawing board, and and that's game development. I mean, and I don't think you should be frustrated every time we have communication problem. You know, it's first of all, it's not communication problem, and so that's what I'm talking about. So I'm giving a bit of tips, a bit of example of what happened in my career that kind of helped me, you know, overcome that. And I added Chewbacca to interest people. Not just a bait.
It worked for me. I gotta admit it worked for me. So one final question. You mentioned Star Wars. If you could choose your next dream project to work on, would we see you as a design director for the next Star Wars Jedi? Or is it any other game? What would it be?
Yeah, well, I guess, like I said, I'm more have a studio role, and I put behind my ambition of becoming a creative director. But it's for me, it's always been about the people. I mean, I don't need to work on a big project. I want to make a successful game, and I want to work with successful people. But it's really more about the people. That's your day to day. I think when you're young and you start a career, you want to have those big names on your resume, and you want to work on those big. But once you've done it once or twice, it's not that important anymore. Like your day to day and accomplishing things with a team that you like working with is really more important. So, yeah, that's gonna be my sad answer for you.
No, it's not a sad answer.
I don't have any
honest,
dream or.
To be honest, I'm impressed by that because you take more importance in the people than in any big names.
Well, it's very selfish. Like I want to be happy at work. I don't want to work with people that scream at each other and don't like what they're doing. So that's the most important thing for me. And yeah, that's it.
I think it's a great answer. Thanks for your time and enjoy the devcom.
Well, thank you very much.